Let's jump right in, shall we? Welcome to this explainer where we're going to unpack a truly profound psychological and theological contrast found in the source material covering Chapter 5 of the Book of Esther. We'll be exploring the fascinating and frankly cautionary dynamic between two radically different figures, Haman and Esther. Can you have absolutely everything in life and still feel entirely empty? It's a pretty heavy question, right? To answer it, we really need to look at the intense cognitive dissonance of Haman. According to the source text, this is a guy who seemingly had it all, but as we're about to see, he was completely undone by just a single act of perceived disrespect.
Haman's own boasting actually reveals the foundation of his immense pride, which was built on four main pillars. First up, immense wealth. He could afford to donate 6.8 million silver pieces without even batting an eye. Second is his abundant family, specifically 10 sons, which back then was viewed as a massive sign of divine blessing. Third, unmatched status. He was promoted above literally all other officials in Susa. And finally, special treatment. He was the absolute sole guest of the king and queen. Every single one of these pillars just builds his ego higher and higher.
But then we hit this incredibly jarring statement from the text. But all this gives me no satisfaction as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting at the king's gate. So think about that. Despite having those four massive pillars of success, the mere sight of one minor official refusing to bow to him renders his entire life seemingly meaningless. It just perfectly illustrates the sheer emptiness and fragility of human pride. He has absolutely everything, yet he feels like he has nothing. And this brilliantly illustrates the ancient wisdom from Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. The source material really highlights this as the ultimate prophecy for Haman. A person so completely blinded by their own arrogance rarely recognizes they're racing at full speed toward their own destruction. They just can't see the cliff approaching until it's too late. This brings us to Section 1, Patience versus Flesh, contrasting Esther and Haman. Let's build this into an incredible character study by contrasting Haman's frantic anxiety with Queen Esther's profound patience.
The stark juxtaposition here is really striking. On one side, we have Haman. He's impatient, prideful, and desperately acting on his own frantic timeline. On the other side, we have Esther, who is humble, patient, and willingly waiting. The source text points out that Haman acts in the flesh to violently force his own will, while Esther humbly waits, fully recognizing that she cannot overcome the king's edict strictly by her own earthly power.
Instead of rushing in with a frantic panic like Haman, Esther follows a clear strategy of faith. Step 1, she acknowledges her lack of earthly power to change the edict. Step 2, she calls all the Jews in Susa to fast for 3 days and nights. And Step 3, she patiently waits for heavenly strength rather than acting on impulse. She seeks this heavenly power because she knows that true salvation for her people comes from nowhere else. It's honestly a masterclass in restraint. But meanwhile, back in Haman's world, his impatience reaches a terrifying climax. This is Section 2, the 7-story gallows, a monument to wrath. So, at the suggestion of his wife and friends, Haman decides to build a wooden gallows to hang Mordecai, and the height they choose is 22.5 meters. Now that is an absolutely astonishing number when you stop to think about the logistics of the ancient world. To put that ancient measurement into a modern perspective for you, a 22.5-meter gallows is roughly the height of a 7-story building. Haman literally orders the overnight construction of a 7-story high execution device just to kill one single man. This brilliantly illustrates his obsessive hatred and the terrifying scale of his wrath. He isn't just trying to eliminate an enemy here, he wants to create a towering monument to his own absolute victory.
But instead of just judging Haman, we need to look deeply into the mirror of our own human nature. That leads us to Section 3, our inner Haman, the human tendency.
The source material brilliantly reframes this historical structure as a psychological mirror. This inner gallows represents the human tendency to judge, condemn, and mentally execute those who don't align with our personal standards of right and wrong. Now, we might not build physical 7-story gallows in our backyards, but we all have an inner Haman that builds mental gallows for people who don't meet our expectations or who refuse to bow to our standards. So how exactly did we get here? Well, the source text maps out the theological roots of this human judgment. It traces all the way back to Eden, where humanity first rejected God's singular standard of good and evil.
That leads directly to the fall, where we established our own internal, flawed moral standards. And that brings us right up to today, where we constantly judge and condemn anyone who falls short of these self-made laws. It's a continuous, exhausting cycle of playing judge and jury in our own minds.
This provides a stunning theological pivot. Section 4. The true cross, foreshadowing grace. We move from a symbol of human malice to a foreshadowing of divine grace.
Let's break down this incredibly powerful comparison. On one side, Haman's gallows were built by human pride to condemn an innocent man and declare a false, fleshly victory. On the other side, we have Jesus' cross. According to the source's theological analysis, just as Haman intended to use the wood to declare his total victory over Mordecai, the devil actually thought the cross was his ultimate victory over Jesus. But instead, God used it to bear the condemnation of guilty humanity and declare true eternal victory. He completely flipped the script.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this source text, captured perfectly in this quote. Jesus Christ came and took our place on the wood meant for us, so that we could be saved. The profound realization presented here is that because of our inner Haman and our constant judgments of others, we are actually the ones who deserve to be on that wood for our shortcomings. But, according to this narrative, Jesus stepped in and took our place as the ultimate substitute.
So I want to leave you with this provocative thought to reflect on today. Are you building a gallows for others, or are you looking to the cross built for you? It really asks us to evaluate our daily lives and our mental habits. Where is your focus right now? Are you frantically trying to force your own will, acting in pride and judging others? Or are you resting in patient humility? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.